Hello, welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for this evening. The first item on our agenda was approval of minutes, but I think we're going to put that off until next time. Yeah. Since it's already just past 7:05, we're going to address the continued hearing, petition of Damian Riley for a special permit under zoning bylaw 175-29. Point 11, as petitioner seeks to exceed maximum lot coverage of 25%. Petitioner is requesting a 35.4% lot coverage. The property is located at 469 Hancock Street on Assessor's Map 44, Lot 42 in the R30 zone. I was wondering if you could come up and if you need to, do we need to give him assistance with the microphone?
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Last time, I think we continued this because we wanted to look at a variety of things related to paperwork, as far as what permits were taken out and what things were in those. Is there anything else you'd like further to say beyond what you said last time, since it's already on the record?
No, I'm just looking to increase my lot coverage from 25%, which is the max, to 35.4. My existing footprints, all inclusive, are 3,200 square feet on a 25,000 square foot lot.
Okay. Is there anyone else from the audience who'd like to speak on this matter? Okay. Then should we just close it for our discussion, or should we ask?
We can check, see what
Well,
Marion has to say.
Yeah, but the only thing is that it's just lot coverage, which is not, does not relate to the
Right.
building
So
permit
that's what's in
issues.
front of us now, it's just a lot coverage issue.
Right, because that's all he's asked for, and so that's all we
Yeah.
can act on.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to ask Marion to pipe in on the difference. One of the questions that I apologize, the previous meeting, but based on what was approved back in '21 versus what was supposed to be approved, I want to separate the zoning issue from the building
Right.
issue.
That's-
We
that's
had an
right.
issue where we had the square footage on the building approval was different than the square footage on the zoning approval. So if you looked at your application for the zoning change that you were looking for, there was a square footage mark in a plan submitted for that purpose. The size of that plan and the size of the plan related to the building permit were different sizes. So if you look at the two documents that were submitted at that time, the square footage, length and width, were two different sizes represented in the building. I don't care about it, I just want to point out that when we're approving something, we approve it based on the plan submitted. And if we had during that period of time where we had both the zoning and the building as part of the packet, which plan were we approving when we approved it? The original plan. That was one of my concerns when I talked to Marion. So what I want to do today, tonight, is we need to separate what was being done versus what needs to get done. And the building permit application is a separate thing altogether. The only thing we're really dealing with here is the actual overage of the square footage of the zoning request and what was approved for the zoning request in '21 and what you're applying for now. And we just need to deal with the fact that the ground coverage is exceeding the maximum allowed for a zoning bylaw process, which is what we are right now. We have too much land covered for what we expect to do. And that's principally what we need to resolve tonight. We want to separate what is being built, whether it's a deck or an addition or whatever, from the zoning process. And the zoning process is how much square footage is allowed to be utilized and how much have you utilized. And that's strictly what we need to resolve tonight. After that, it's a whole separate ballgame as far as what gets built and how it gets built. So I just wanted to ask Marion for a clarification, if you don't mind,
No, I don't.
and how we talked about that.
Okay. So just to clarify, the ZBA granted a special permit on March 12, 2020. The applicant states he's requesting to, quote, build a three-car garage with storage above. Residential use, 1,120 square feet, proposed garage to be attached, unquote. The lot of land drawing the petitioner submitted to the ZBA application was for 40 feet by 28 feet proposed garage addition, which equates to 1,120 square feet. Now, the building permit was applied for a foundation only back on June 16, 2021, so a year and 3 months later. The homeowner applied for a, quote, foundation-only building permit. Under the brief description of work to be performed, the homeowner wrote, quote, 44 by 30, three-car garage, / 4 precast footings per / extend sewer line to garage foundation only, unquote. The lot of land drawing the petitioner submitted in the building permit application was for a 44 by 30, which equates to 1,320 square feet. The permit was issued and closed on 6/23/2021. Then, on July 27, 2021, the homeowner applied for the building permit. Under the brief description of work to be performed, the homeowner wrote, quote, three-car garage with unfinished room over. That's where I ask you to refer to the 11 by 17 drawing plans where I marked ZBA to draw your attention. The homeowner submitted plans depicting the granted three-car garage with an unfinished storage above and alongside it a deck with stairs leading to the second level. This was what was submitted to the building department. As of today, I do not believe that the three-car garage building permit has been finalized or closed by the homeowner. And because no scope of work has been requested in over 6 months from the last time an inspection was asked for, that permit would have to be renewed with the building department. So now the homeowner is now applied for a permit on May 3rd, 2023. Application was stopped as the homeowner commenced with work without a building permit being issued. A certified plot plan was required as concern of lot coverage as the property had been paved recently. So in my opinion, it just comes down to when Mr. Riley paved the driveway from July 2021 to present. And at that point in time, it's my opinion, 25% lot coverage was not an issue. It just became an issue after he paved and it exceeded it. When we saw the illegal structure built, I asked Mr. Riley, after we gave him a stop order, we need a foundation as-built plan. We need to know or a lot coverage plan. And it took him a couple of weeks, maybe like 4 to 6 weeks, I believe. Plans aren't that easy to get, and then that's when we saw that he exceeded it by 33%, and then that's when we gave him a letter saying he needs to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit under 175-21.
Thank you. Yes, I see that the plot plan is dated July 20, 2023. I'm not sure when it was submitted to the town, but it does show that the lot coverage currently is a little over 35%, and the limitation in the zoning bylaws is 25%. And we have to decide on just whether that's acceptable to us or not. And then the issues related to building permits are a separate matter that we won't consider this evening because it's not within our scope of work.
And what I said when I discussed it with Mr. Manning, Mr. Riley coming up for a garage measuring 40 by 28 with the zoning board, and then in turn filed for a foundation permit for 44 by 30, is that allowed? He's using 40 by 28 of that to build the three-car garage. He just extended the foundation pouring. In my opinion, it is allowed, so long as that extra addition didn't, cause any setback issues or zoning issues. But I think it's a matter of how that foundation pouring is being used at this point in time, because what was presented in plans was a two-story deck and that's how the plans were submitted. That was not built, which was fine, but at the same time, the permit hasn't even been closed out, the three-car garage permit hasn't been closed out. If you have it, I don't have that copy, they might have gone there.
Sign
Yes,
off final.
yeah. Okay.
You told me I had to
Construction.
close my permit before I applied for another permit.
5-4, oh, very good, okay, yes. So, I think that's Paul.
Okay.
So, so that's where we're at. The exceeding the foundation pouring, in my opinion, is not an issue. It didn't encroach any further or anything. It just comes down to the illegal, what the use of that extension is, and it's different from what was submitted on the plans, and
But is that, it's more of a, that's a,
that's a building issue.
it's a building issue,
Yeah.
not a zoning issue.
Not a zoning issue.
Okay, just
So
want to make
I-
sure I'm crystal clear on that.
Right, and so I think the reason why we're here at the, for Mr. Riley to ask for the special permit for the lot coverage is because of, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with it, but at the same time, in order for you to understand why it was requested, was because an illegal structure went up. Then the building commissioner and I said, we need an as-built plan of the entire property. We're completely in agreement. The property looks great, looks, you know, better than what it was, absolutely, but that we still need to follow the protocol,
Right.
you know.
And my understanding was that we have to resolve the lot coverage issue before he can do anything more with building permits.
Correct.
Is that correct? Because it's already a problem and he can't
Correct.
issue a
Correct.
permit if there's an unresolved zoning problem.
Correct.
Our issue is, you know, it looks like they were approved for 4 footings and a slab for a deck. And there's a 2-level structure there now.
Right.
So, but what's before you now is for the lot coverage, however you want to slice it either way, what triggered what.
Right,
But we'll certainly handle the building on our
Yeah.
end.
right,
But we just wanted to bring your attention to what was approved and what is actually there now.
right.
All right?
And we do have the, you know, a certified plot plan so that we know what the numbers are anyway.
Right.
And, you know, thank you for identifying that issue and
Sure.
brought it forward, and resulting in something we can make a decision upon, because we actually have information that we can act on. And then you guys can do your thing with whatever the building issues are.
Understood. Thank you.
Right. Since there was no one else from the public that wanted to speak on this matter, I would entertain a motion to close the public discussion of this issue and.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So now we're down to deciding only upon the lot coverage issue.
So in granting a special permit, there are certain things you look for, right? Whether or not it overloads the public water, sewer, drainage system, I don't think that's the case here.
No,
Will it cause undue traffic congestion, unduly impair sightlines? I don't think that's the case here, so I think he meets the criteria for a special
Right.
permit.
I live over in that area, and I have to say that the property, building inspection issues notwithstanding, the property as it sits now looks far better than it did.
Oh,
when
absolutely.
Mr. Riley
Yep.
got a hold of it.
Yeah, that's great.
So, I appreciate that as a sort of neighbor.
Yeah.
So, in the past, when issues like this have come up, when someone has done paving that results in an exceedance of the lot coverage thing, what has the board done in the past? Or has there been circumstances
I
like
don't
this?
recall having something like this, actually.
This is the first for me.
Okay, well, if it's,
I
you
mean,
know,
we've had lot coverage come before us, but I
But
don't know.
never
in
like this.
In this
Not
manner.
this manner, yeah.
right.
All right. Yeah, shut up. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, on some things. But in this case here, based on the review that I've done, and where it's located, how it's looking on the property right now, I don't want to really affect a homeowner who's really done a lot to improve what we already have in place. And I kind of feel that as much as I think my father would say, sometimes you ask for forgiveness after the fact, but before the fact, one or the other, but in this case here, I really do think the property looks very good. And I really do think, shy of the building issue going forward, that I'm willing, I think, at least my personal opinion, I appreciate the effort he's put into this. I appreciate the fact he's given us time to review and look at it so that we had a significant amount of time to establish what we needed to know and how we needed to know it. So I'm on the mindset, I think I'd like to move forward with it. So unless somebody has a complaint, I'd like to make a suggestion that in the petition of Damian Riley for a special permit under zoning bylaw 17529, bullet point 11, and petitioner seeks to exceed the maximum lot coverage of 25%. The petitioner is requesting 35.4% lot coverage. The property located at 4069 Hancock Street, Abington, Mass. Assessors map 44, lot 42, in the residential 30R30 zone, but I'd like to approve his request for a special permit.
Just add that it be done in
As
compliance.
compliance with this plan.
July 20th.
With plans submitted on July,
Or dated July 20th.
dated July 20th, 2023.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, though. The lot coverage issue has been addressed, and
Thank you very much.
thank you very much, Mr.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the petition.
No, I'm good.
The petition of Noel and Margaret Heron, 21 Allen Street, Pembroke, for a special permit under 175-21A2 residential uses to convert existing one-family with in-law to a two-family with no exterior changes at 623 Adams Street, as permitted in the R30 zone. The property is located at 623 Adams Street on Assessor's Map 65, Lot 93 in the R20 zone. Who do we have speaking before us on this matter?
For the record, my name's Attorney Sean Riley, no relation to the previous Mr. Riley. Although my client is also from Ireland, so we have a bunch of Irish guys in the house tonight. My client is Noel Heron, who's with me here tonight on behalf of himself and his wife, Margaret. This property at 623 Adams Street is, currently it's a two-family, it's been used as a two-family. We had questions arise when Mr. Heron purchased the property. His intent was to kind of clean it up, renovate it, and to sell the property. And I was trying to help him sell the property, and we were doing our research. And the assessors have it listed as a two-family. It has 3 bedrooms in the main house, 2 bedrooms in the rear part of the building. I walked through the building, and it is set up as a two-family. It's not actually set up as an in-law. Older in-laws used to be, the difference between an in-law and a two-family was the in-law had a common doorway where you could cut back and forth between the houses.
Right.
On this property, that's not the case. They have like a vestibule, which I provided you with photos. You walk in off the deck, you walk into a door, it's this hallway, and then inside the hallway is a door into the main house, and there's a door into the rear apartment. Those are the photos.
I put the application on the,
Oh, thank you very much.
Very nice.
So, this has been in existence since 2000, when they pulled the building permit to build the second dwelling unit out back. And on the application, the building permit application, the applicant wrote that it was an in-law apartment, although Abington did not have any in-law apartment bylaw at the time. But it's because Mrs. Keenan was moving in there. The Keenan family's lived here since the 1960s. So it was constructed as a two-family. It was used by one family with different family members. Mrs. Keenan passed away. The surviving daughter rented out the other half of the property, and that has been going on until she sold it to my client. We're not proposing any changes to the property. What you see is what you get. No changes to the outside, no changes to the inside. Basically, we put a new roof on the property and a couple buckets of paint, cleaned up the floors, plenty of existing parking. So you're basically going to see no change to the amount of water, no change to the amount of sewer, no change to traffic, no change to the number of bedrooms, no change to the exterior of the building. My concern was when I was looking to help them sell, I did a quick rundown and looked at some of the documents on record. There is no There was no zoning decision to allow that to be added on, and didn't need it at the time. But what was recorded, the in-law apartment, the accessory apartment bylaw came in 2005. Sometime later, they recorded one of those affidavits of who lives in the back apartment. They did like 3 of them over 15 years or so. And that's what got me curious and saying, what is this? Is this an in-law? Did they get a special permit to build an in-law? No, they built it before the in-law. So we were confused because we figured a buyer would be confused. So I sat down with the good people in the building department, and at first review, we came to the conclusion, you don't need anything. You're good to go. It's an existing legal 2-dwelling unit with a building permit that was issued in 2000. I was still a little concerned about, yeah, but a buyer or a buyer's bank's gonna see that in-law thing that's on record and say, prove to us that it's really a 2-family, not just an in-law. So then we kept talking, and they're like, go apply for the special permit and just end the issue. So, as you just alluded to in the previous hearing, the special permit, in this R20 zone, 1 and 2, the 2-family is allowed with a special permit. And the special permit can be granted if you can show it's not gonna overload water or sewer. It doesn't, there's no change to it. It's not gonna increase traffic congestion. It's not changing anything. There's no drainage issues, because we're not changing anything in the topography or at all. It's just a nice, small, 2-bedroom dwelling in the back. Put a relative in there or not, it is what it is. There'd be absolutely no change to the neighborhood or to this property itself. So I think we qualify for all the, check all the boxes in the special permit, but it is something that we thought it best to apply for, so we could actually get a decision issued, we could record it at the Registry of Deeds, and then any buyer or buyer's bank has no further need to worry or wonder about what it is. Happy to answer any questions that I can.
Do you guys have any questions?
Just 2 questions, Sean. Just the neighborhood, I know there's other 2 families in that neighborhood, correct?
A lot of single families. Yeah. You're one of them, okay, maybe. Single families, this is on Adams Street.
Adams Street,
Yeah, Adams Street, heading down towards Cold Town, not
Yeah.
as far down there.
So it's not out of character of the neighborhood to have a 2-family?
The character of the house, like I said, won't change. That's
No,
way
no,
it's
the
looked-
neighborhood itself. I'm
Oh, no,
talking about
no.
there's other 2 families in the neighborhood that,
I think there's mostly one families in the immediate area. Yeah.
yeah.
This house was permitted to add the second dwelling unit in year 2000.
2000.
So it's been there for 23 years.
Yeah. I guess the other point I would ask is, there's a 3-bedroom in the front and a 2-bedroom in the back.
Right.
Would you be objecting if we make the special permit conditional on it being 3-bedroom in the front and 2-bedroom in the back?
No, we're not planning any changes.
There's no, okay.
Yeah, no.
That's all right.
I don't have any more questions for him, do you?
No, I don't.
Is there anyone else who would like to come up and speak on this matter? If you come up and just give your name and address and let us know what you have to say.
My name is John D. Clementi, 613 Adams Street, Abington. We've lived in our property. We're on the south side of the home that the gentleman had purchased. Used to be owned by the Whalen family. And again, we've lived in our property now for 38 years. I believe when they added on the in-law apartment on the back for the Whalens, for Mr. and Mrs. Whalen, that it was put on so they could enjoy the rest of their life and have their daughter live in the front part of the home. And it's always been known as a single-family home with an in-law attached to the back. Where we live right next door to it, we've encountered a lot of damage to our property just prior to the gentleman purchasing the property, from an overload of cars being parked all over the front of the yard, smashed through my fence on my property. We've had the police department come and put that on record. And when I had gone to the home from Had the accident happened, the residents who lived in the front of it didn't want to come to the door, but I know that has nothing to do with this gentleman here. I and my wife both would like to see the house maintained as a single-family home with a in-law apartment on the back. That's what it was really developed for. All of the homes down in that area are single-family. If you know that part of Abington, we live directly across from Moran Jewelers' home, and the young lady here who's here with the baby, she lives in Martha Ware's home, so we're right there. Neil Johnson lives on the opposing side, on the north side of the house, and according to him, he was opposed and he wanted to see it left as a single family. I give the gentleman a lot of credit for what he's done to the home. It really needed a lot of work. I did go through that house a number of times before he purchased it, and it's just filled with all types of problems, all types of problems. I mean, it has knob and tube wiring, top to bottom in the house. It was connected by somebody along the way back when the addition was put on, and they connected into wires that they shouldn't have been being connected to. I think it's a fire that could possibly happen at any time from an overload, and I would certainly hate to see that, and I live next door to it. So that's all I have to say, and again, I'd like to see the home left as a single-family home. Okay? Thank you.
Do you have anybody have any questions for him?
I don't.
I don't either. Thank you very much. One thing I'm a little bit confused about is the home was originally modified to be an in-law prior to the in-law zoning requirements, which complicates matters obviously, but was there any period of time where the house has actually functioned as a two-unit property where somebody, not a family member, was paying someone rent?
Yeah, it's my understanding, I didn't know the prior, well, I knew who Mrs. Keenan was. Yes, after Mrs. Keenan passed away, Mr. and Mrs. both passed away, the daughter, I was told, rented it out to a non-family member. For about 3 or 4 years, I was told, the last 3 or 4 years. That was my understanding. It's, yeah, it's an interesting situation because it was permitted and constructed as a two-family. It wasn't built, you know, like I said, it didn't have that immediate connection, that common connection. It was used as an in-law, no doubt about it. And it still could be used as an in-law. If you grant a special permit to allow the two-family use, it can be used by relatives. It doesn't prohibit that from happening, but there's really nothing to, let's see, we comply with the zoning bylaw to have a special permit granted to confirm that it can be used as a two-family, and again, with no changes to the layout of the property.
Right. Okay. Do you have any further questions for Mr. Riley?
No?
I don't.
No?
I don't know if there's anybody else want to speak?
Oh, yeah, please come on up. Just give us your name and address and what you'd like to say.
I'm Carly Malvesti. I live at 620 Adams Street, which is directly across from the house in question. We moved in 5.5 years ago, and at that time it was Jonna Whalen living there, and I believe around that time was when she moved into the back portion, which is the in-law, and her brother was living there for a time. We had no issues. They were great neighbors. And then at some point, she began renting it to people she worked with and things like that, and that is when the troubles began, and that is where our concern with it becoming a two-family is that these issues will continue. When she began renting it out, the first non-family that moved in smoked in the house, completely ruined it. Cops were called. There were some issues, domestic issues over there. The second family, that was the last tenant prior to the selling, cops were there quite frequently. When I was 9 months pregnant, I got woken up cops at my door because there was a rock thrown through the window. There were drugs very clearly being sold. My husband is law enforcement, and he was working with Abington Police about that. So once it was being rented out to non-family, issues were there. It was not pleasant to live across from there, and that is what we're concerned about with it becoming a two-family. When it was family living in the front, family living in the back, no issues, but once it started being rented out to non-family, there were some definitely unsavory characters living there, and it made for an unpleasant neighborhood.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for her?
I have no questions.
Thank you very much.
I think it speaks to the adage where you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family and you can't pick your neighbors. And I understand what the neighbors are saying. Honestly, any one of the houses on that street could be rented, and you just don't, it is what it is. Or even if they're not rented, you just don't know who your neighbors are gonna be. That's really not a zoning issue. We have to comply with the zoning bylaw, and whether this was a one-family, two-family, or three-family, who lives there, it's not a zoning thing, unfortunately. It becomes more of a neighbor thing.
How long have your folks owned it, Sean?
Just April, was it?
July.
July.
And did they buy it thinking it was a two-family? Or did they know it was?
No, they bought it with, it's a two-unit building, they were renovating it, gonna sell it, and that's when I kind of flagged it to them and said, I need to look into this, because I saw this affidavit, but there was but nothing else on it. And then got into the history of it and know about the Whalen family.
So I guess I'd have a question for you guys. If this was not granted, they potentially still could rent this out as a, did I hear that correctly? I think you said that, they could still rent it out as a two separate units? Even without this special permit?
No,
I know you have an issue because of the
Yeah.
bank, but
That's,
an in-law.
we've been spinning around with this.
I think you said initially, they said you don't need a special permit, correct?
Because, yeah, you can look at this like a diamond, it depends on which way you're looking at it, right? If you look at the assessors, they say it's a two-family. If you see the way it's constructed, it's a two-family. The building permit application, they wrote, I gave you a copy, they wrote on in-law apartment, but that was the applicant, the contractor who wrote that. Because at the time, the family was using it as an in-law. So what would happen if you don't grant us a special permit to make a two-family? I don't think it prohibits the owner from renting it to whomever they want to.
And but the assessor's got it at 2 units, so it can be rented.
I don't think that's solves the issue.
No, I understand that, but
I think it's cleaner if.
I understand why you're looking for it, but I guess that's why I would be
Yeah.
more inclined to grant it if they can do it anyways, then, and this is like belt and suspenders, basically, right? You just want to
Yeah.
make sure, but, and that's why I was asking that question, if
Could it be rented separately? Absolutely,
you could,
yeah,
two separate units.
Two separate
Right
units.
now, without the special permit.
right.
But this just clarifies the record. Basically, that's what
Correct.
you're requesting, is to clarify the
I think
record.
he's trying to walk through the formalities of it.
Right, with the special permit for an in-law being adopted by the town in February of 2005. Anything prior to that that was listed as in-law apartments, building an in-law, whatever, the closest thing the zoning bylaws had was two-family. So anything before 2005, if someone was building an in-law, they were really building a two-family. We didn't have that bylaw adopted yet. We're talking about something that happened in 2000. Now, in 2000, from the little research I did, a special permit was still required for a two-family
Yeah.
for, in the R20.
Right.
However, the homeowner was able to ascertain a building permit to add a 26 by 32 in-law apartment to rear of house, removing existing porch. When I see things of this nature, it's not an in-law, I see it's a two-family because of the year and date. I can't go backwards, and the use of this has been for now over 20 years.
Right, and obviously, the members of the building department weren't present in 2000, but, and I think Mary and I came to a similar conclusion. I was looking for a special permit decision from 2000
Correct.
that perhaps may not have been recorded, because that did happen on occasion back in the day.
Yeah.
But we could not find anything in the records of the building department that a special permit decision had been issued.
Right.
We saw the building permit application, the building permit was issued, it was constructed as a two-family. So that's why we're here today, is to kind of,
And if those affidavits weren't on record at the registry of deeds, I'm assuming you wouldn't be here at all,
yeah, I don't.
right? Because
It's a
that would
two-family.
include, that wouldn't, right, that would
Yeah.
I also
include.
checked at the logs of of petitions through the zoning board of appeals, and there was no 623 Adams Street for, a special permit for a
Right.
two-family.
Right.
So, who was here at that time and how did this happen. and
Yeah, I don't even know who the building inspector was, but that's not
Exactly.
even
So
relevant.
there was no transitional things put in place that if you had an existing in-law, they never had to do the annual registration or any of that stuff?
After 2005,
Right, but I'm saying that anybody that had an in-law before that time never has to worry about that.
that is correct, it is
And so the only
grandfathered.
thing that you could get a special permit for back in the day when they may have, should have gotten a special permit was for two families.
Was for two-family.
Because in-law did not
Did not
exist
exist.
prior to
Correct.
2005.
And then anything prior to 2000 is grandfathered. I can't, you know, the zoning bylaw 17532I, the accessory apartments, requires that I get an annual affidavit revalidating who's in the house, it's a family member. I cannot get those from any of the properties that are grandfathered prior to 2005.
Okay.
And those accessory apartment slash in-law
In-laws.
special permits would expire upon sale, I believe. and you-
Right.
If
you
it's,
renew
if it's
it,
not to
right,
kinship.
Which doesn't
And-
apply here either.
Right, which has happened a few times, as you guys know. Many people have come up to you to legalize the in-law apartment because I sent them a letter saying, shame on your real estate agent, it's not transferable, you know.
Right. Okay, any more questions of Mr. Riley right now?
I do not have any more questions. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Okay. I entertain a motion.
Well,
to-
no, I do have.
Okay.
What are your guys' plans to do with this? Are they rehabbing it and selling it, or are they, that's what they're doing?
You pretty much have completed the renovations, it was just interior cleanup, like some people had said it needed to be cleaned up. So it's been cleaned up. But again, as I
Were
mentioned,
there any building permits pulled for
the
the?
roof, the
There was,
rest,
yes.
cosmetic stuff.
Yeah.
And like I said, what you see is what you get. There's
Properties in
no,
full compliance with the building department.
yeah, no change. You wouldn't know that the property had been sold if you drove by, other than it had been cleaned up, outside, inside.
There was a mention earlier of, in the past of electrical issues. I was wondering if any of those had been addressed in the remodeling, or was it done before?
I'm not an electrician. I don't know what was done in the 2000s as far as connecting.
I just didn't know if these guys were upgrading the electrical when they were
Oh, I don't know.
cleaning up the house. No. Maybe we can have, you want to come up and speak?
That would be a building permit issue and not a zoning
Right,
issue.
right, yeah.
When the, my name again?
Please,
No,
yeah.
Mr. I have.
John D.
Yep.
Clementi, 613 Adams Street. When the in-law apartment was being built, I think Glenn LaPointe built it.
Yes.
They had an electrician there, I don't remember his name, but I remember them trying to connect wires into the old wires that were in the house. And I had gone in the house, I had been in and out of the house a few times since the Whalens have passed. It was going to be sold, I think 2 or 3 years ago. It was going to be sold, and the Realtor who was going in for the listing walked through the house, and he asked me to come with him because Jonna Whalen, at the time, she just couldn't understand what was happening to the family homestead. I walked around with him, and he went downstairs, and he looked. The first thing he said to me was, "This has all knob and tube wiring. Johnny, you cannot sell this property this way because there's a fire hazard here and it could happen at any time. All the wires that are coming down to the box have been connected with Romex cut into the knob and tube wiring. I'm not an electrician. I don't know exactly how you can cut into that. All I know is that it was very unsafe at that time. Now, how much more work was done to it, an additional bathroom was put on to the house, I believe. I had seen some work being done because I live right next door, and I had seen a lot of bathroom fixtures going out and bathroom fixtures coming in, so I know there's been another bathroom been put onto the property as well. I'm very concerned with a hazard of fire with this particular piece of property. My house was built, I always say my house was built in the 1700s. My wife said, no, it was built in the 1800s. So anyway, I'm going to go halfway there.
Then your wife was right.
My wife is right. But our house is very old. It's all not, I'm sure I have knob and tube wiring way down in the back corner of the property. There's an old shed that they used to sell pies out of in the front of the property by Annie Osborne, if any of you people know that name from Abington. But anyway, that's all I have to say. But
Thank
if you have any other questions about the property that I think I can answer, I'll be happy to. So,
Thank you very much. I don't have any other questions.
I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, as Mr. Riley pointed out, you know, that the condition of the electrical system is more of a
Building issue.
building issue. We can't really address that here, but I want to make sure everybody gets heard.
Right.
Yeah, I want to make sure we understand what your concerns are. Is there any, because there has never been a special permit actually issued for a two-family there, is there any other, like, inspection requirements that, aside from the zoning issue, that they would have to deal with?
Upon sale, 26F for the fire department. But that's
That doesn't count.
pretty standard, but other than that, no.
Okay,
I mean, we had to have to issue a CO after this. We have to do an inspection. They'd have to
Well,
file
wasn't, the substantial improvement wasn't done. There's nothing done, roof was
Right.
done. Yeah,
Right,
so we're good.
Right, yeah.
okay. If there's no one else who wants to speak, entertain a motion to close the public part of the hearing?
So requested?
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. Well, here we are once again with a novel approach to town politics and how we do our business, so. We have history where, as of a certain date, we establish rules, and prior to that date, we don't have rules for those things. And we're pretty much caught on what is and what is and was at the time of the change in the law, which is 2005. The fact of the history of the property and what happens to it afterwards, I believe it'll have to be dealt with by somebody at some point in time if there's another issue. But the issue here in front of us is a special permit. And Andy, I'm going to ask you once again to talk about special permit and what we need to make sure we're making,
Yep.
we're covering the
So-
town for, please.
Use requested is listed in the table of use regulations as a special permit in the district for which the application is made, and that is the case. This is an R20 zone, so special permit for a two-family is something that can be sought. The requested use will not overload any public water, sewer, or drainage system, or any other municipal system, create undue traffic congestion, or unduly impair sightlines for traffic, or hinder pedestrian safety to such an extent that the requested use or any developed use in the immediate area or in any other area of the town will be unduly subjected to hazards affecting health, safety, or the general welfare.
Thank you.
For the public safety part of it, I mean, since there wasn't, well, I guess even when they built it back in 2000, there had to have been some kind of inspection done for that construction.
If they pulled a building permit, then
Yeah,
they would have
right,
had to go in
so-
there and get that approved, so.
Yeah. I
Signed
don't know what
off.
the requirements were back then for electrical stuff, but,
But that's not what we're,
all right, that's not what
Yeah.
we're talking about here, so
yeah.
so we're kind of in the position of, it's already been used as an in-law and at the time, it should have been given a special permit to be a two-family, and it wasn't, because they didn't request it.
Because they didn't need it.
They didn't need it, and they got a building permit, so,
And again, and I
Kind of-
think the point is that these folks wouldn't even be here but for the fact that they recorded that affidavit a couple of times. If that were the
Right.
case, then it would just be continued on as a two-family that way,
Right.
so that's.
I don't know. Seems like a dilemma.
You know,
I do feel for people that have dealt with difficult neighbors. I've had them in my
Yeah.
past. That, whether it's rental property or not, sometimes they just,
Well, it's going up for sale, and hopefully the new buyers
Yeah.
will be
Better neighbors.
better neighbors.
yeah. Certainly the property is very appealing. We drove by it. It looks very nice. And an improvement on the photos that were included, 'cause they must have been prior to your work,
Right.
right? I don't know, seems like we're kind of in a box here that we should clarify the paperwork, and that's about all we can do.
I will make a motion
Okay?
on the petition of Noel and Margaret Heron, 29 Allen Street, Pembroke, for a special permit under section 175-21-A2 residential uses to convert the existing one-family with in-law to a two-family with no exterior changes at 623 Adams Street as permitted in the R20 zone. The property is located at 623 Adams Street on Assessors Map 65, Lot 93 in the R20 zone. And also with a condition that the front portion of the two-family continue with just 3 bedrooms and the rear portion continue with just two bedrooms.
I second that.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The petition is granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry for the curveballs.
It's,
Before we close the meeting, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd just like to thank the building department once again for your
Sure, of course.
participation and your cooperation and all the information you provided me over the last 2 weeks, because I asked a bunch of questions. And I had some really, and you guys are very clear and very concise of what we needed to know and what I needed to know. So I just once again want to thank both of you for, number your attendance, number one, and for the effort you put into helping me understand what I need to understand to do what we have to do here.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I second his second, his
Third.
third. All right. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you so much.